Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another special guest episode. Today, I am so excited to talk with my friend, Dr. Tanielle Brew Smith. Dr. Brew Smith is a family and obesity medicine physician like myself, as well as a hypnosomatic coach. And we're going to talk more about that for sure. Dr. Brew Smith completed her medical education at Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as her residency training at Ascension St. Vincent's Family Medicine Residency program. She expanded her knowledge into coaching and learning somatic techniques as tools to decrease her own symptoms of burnout and, listen up, to help in maintaining her 100-pound weight loss. Through self-reflection, meditation, hypnosis, breathwork, yoga, and other modalities, she was able to understand her strengths and weaknesses, visualize her future, and create a life of joy, curiosity, and hope. And I can say absolutely that she embodies those things. She is now the founder and CEO of Brew Wellness Collective, which helps high-achieving professionals cultivate daily stress reduction practices to increase joy, fulfillment, and pleasure. Tanielle, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we have so much to talk about, and I'm excited about it, but I always ask people to start off by sort of sharing their story of burnout, what they experienced. There's so many common elements that come, with the stories that we hear on this show, and yet we've all got, important pieces that stand out to us as, something that really makes our story unique. So I'd love to hear more about your story.
Absolutely. Well, I've had several episodes of burnout before I even knew what burnout was. I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. I'm not doing enough. That's what I thought it was. Right. But I think the biggest, most pronounced episode of burnout was the most recent when I was an attending. So I started out working primarily in a family medicine, traditional full-time family medicine clinic. And oh my goodness, it was so many pressures. Of course, I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't seeing enough patients. At one point, the strategy was, let's triple book her in all these different slots. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
And so there's this time vortex that, fills up the room.
Exactly. Let's just kind of cut out the lunch. We're going to have meetings all the time and triple book her. And then when she tries to go on PTO, she has to come up with a strategy so she can be seeing even more patients before and after. I'm like, well, that's not PTO. But luckily, I was trained in obesity medicine. So I switched over to a different clinic. And well, the system was the same. Eventually, even though I was just dealing with obesity medicine patients, it was a lot of, okay, well, now we need you, instead of seeing the patients in 30-minute slots, you need to see them in 15-minute slots.
Right.
And you need
but still do all the coaching and talking and, history taking and all the things. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, let's change their belief around food, which they've had their whole life, in 15 minutes. Sounds about right. And then at one point, this was in the midst of COVID, we did not have much staff. I didn't have a medical assistant. And I was asked to do all those things. Literally, it was me. It was me and the office manager. Uh-huh. And I think there were probably 2 or 3 straws that broke the camel's back. One, like me and you have spoken before, I'm going through my own IVF journey. I've known for forever that for me to have children, that I would have to have assistance. So I got married during COVID, October 2021. It was around March or April because we were going to really start. And I just had a meeting with my bosses and they were like, oh, I need you to see more patients, double book. You can't leave early. And I happened to call the fertility clinic because I wanted to make my initial appointment. And I realized very quickly, there's no space for me to make this appointment. I lost all the weight. I got married to somebody I love. I'm here in a space to finally be able to have children, but I can't even figure out where to fit the initial appointment in the schedule.
Let alone all the other ones. Yes.
And I remember sitting there and I just cried. I cried. I closed the office door and I just cried because I had done all this. And at one point, one of the thoughts I had in my head was, oh, I guess I remember this. I remember thinking, well, I guess I just won't have children. And the thought of that was like, no, that's just not even the case. And then the other straw that broke the camel's back was, so it was me I was the only doctor in the obesity medicine realm at the time. And it was time for a new medical director because our person was leaving. And when they ended up hiring someone outside of me after I run this clinic and other clinics, and then when that person started, they wanted me to help train that person because they had just got board certified in obesity medicine. I was like, you know what?
They offered you a tremendous amount of money in time to do that, correct?
No, of course not. Of course not. I wish maybe then, but no, was not offered any of that. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm over here at one point crying in the office talking about not having children, and they don't even see my value. They don't even see the value that I'm bringing to the organization, how the things that I've done. It's time for me to go. I have no idea what time for me to go means, where I'm going to go, where I'm going to end up, how I'm going to land. But I know I don't need to be here. And so as soon as I made that decision, and I can tell you that resignation talk with my boss, it was not professional and cute. It literally was like, I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. I think there was almost tears being
it's a more polite version than the version that most of us want to do.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, maybe I should have been like more cussy or whatever, but I was like, you know what? I can't do it anymore. Consider this my resignation. I will send an official letter when I leave here today.
When I get to it. Goodness. And I want to go back just a little bit because I think something that you said is probably really true for many of us that, here you are, you're looking at your schedule, you're trying to figure out when can I go to see the fertility specialist? Like, this is the time of my life I'm supposed to, kind of be doing some of these life things. And you can't figure out how to make it work with the work schedule, right?
Yes.
And the immediate thought is, I guess I don't get to have that. I guess I don't get to have children because I can't figure out how to make an appointment with the fertility specialist and make it okay with work. Yeah. And, just for us to sit with that for a minute and really understand, right, that there is a part of us that is in such learned helplessness that we are going to allow the difficulty of navigating the system and getting time off. We're going to let that dictate something so important in our lives as, whether or not to have children. I was just talking a little bit ago on a previous episode with our friend, Dr. Sadaflathi, and she was talking about when her third son had RSV at 5 months old, she was not allowed to take time off. She was on the call schedule as an OBGYN. And so her tiny infant was struggling with RSV, hospitalized for a week, and she was not allowed to take time off to be with him. And there's so many stories like this, right? There's so many different versions of this. And for most of us, it just doesn't come naturally to pause and be like, wait a minute, that's too far. You don't get work /career/particular employer, like whatever we want to point at, right? You don't get to make that decision for me. I make that decision, right? I'm going to find a way to get into the fertility specialist because this is important to me. And if that means I don't work at this job anymore, so be it. Like, that's probably not a step that most of us, I hope, need to take, but it's going to be a step that some of us are going to have to take. So
absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that part because it's so common that we are just like, well, they said no. I guess I got to keep doing this, right? I guess I can't have this. I can't do that. I guess I have to do this. It's like, no, we need to take back agency and say, that may be your rule, but I don't have to play here anymore. There is always something else for me to do. And it's probably not being a barista. It seems to be the default job for all of us. We're like, oh, I'll just go be a barista somewhere. It's like, oh, we could probably do better than that because we absolutely can do different work, even if we couldn't practice clinical medicine anymore, right? Which is rarely going to be the case, right? There are so many other opportunities out there, but I think that's so important. So what you said. So thank you for sharing that bit of it.
Yeah. And honestly, now that you put it in that way, it all really started, well, it probably started even before medical school, how we've had to change. And I say we as in people in the medical profession have changed everything we do to fit into our training. Oh, well, I remember plenty of times I'm like, well, I'm not going to date people now because I'm focusing on studying. Or I've made so many concessions to the point where it was normalized. My life will be delayed for my medical education because my education is so important. This other thing is so important than what I want and what I need and the desires I have in my own heart. But this other thing is more important than me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to take a deep breath on that one. And we're just going to say, let's recognize those moments in our lives because they certainly happen to so many of us. And let's look at it and let it go, right? We're going to decide that's not okay for us anymore. We have given up much to be here. And most of us don't necessarily regret, all of that, right? We love what we do. We don't always love the ways that we're asked to do it, right? But we love taking care of people. But there are some lines here, and realizing where those lines are for you is so important. Okay, I feel like we could talk about that for forever, but I have so many other things I want to talk to you about. So I'm gonna push this forward here. So you and I are both obesity medicine trained. And so I remember going through the training and being like really just kind of depressed about the numbers, the statistics that we see, right? And how difficult it is for people to lose, what we consider sort of significant amounts of weight and maintain the weight loss, which many of us can, hustle and lose weight, but maintaining the weight loss is such a bigger challenge for, nearly all humans. And it's a common, kind of misconception of, okay, well, we'll just do this for a while and then the weight will be gone and then that will be okay. I'll just do keto for a little bit and, then I'm going to be fine. But of course, that's just really not the way physiology works, when it comes to weight. And I think there's so many parallels when we talk about weight and burnout. So I'd love to hear a little bit more of your experience of really that maintenance mode for wellness, for, maintaining your weight loss and just kind of get your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. So with my weight loss, it definitely happened over time because most of my weight loss was during residency, medical school. So very stressful times, but I also took breaks and like really conscious, like first year of residency is not my weight loss period. Second, third year, when it's a little bit lighter, okay, now it's easier for me to incorporate the different strategies. But when it comes to maintaining it, in order to be able to maintain weight loss, you have to stand up for yourself. Mm-hmm. Meaning you have to say, you know what, I have got to have time to prepare the food, have the food there with me. I know in my old office where I worked, I literally brought in a refrigerator and a microwave because there were not healthy options. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to go to the front of the office because they always had unhealthy food. So I knew, okay, if I want to have food here, which I know I needed, I need to literally buy a refrigerator, have it in my office and a microwave so I can heat it up in here. Because if I go to the other room, mm-hmm. I'm going to be tempted to eat foods that I don't want to eat.
That's where all the donuts are and, the jumbo containers of chips and all the crap.
Exactly. And then also being able to say no. No to the people offering you those foods. No to when you're at family events and they're like, oh, do you want some more? No, I'm actually really good right now. And dealing with, oh, they may be disappointed in me. Okay, but I don't want to eat that food right now. And I had to work on my people pleasing because that people pleasing gene is still strong in me.
Yeah. And it's such
So,
it's such an under-recognized part of it of how many of us get kind of stuck in those patterns of people pleasing. I mean, most people wouldn't think that people pleasing can be a part of a weight struggle. Big time of like, oh, I don't want to be rude. Oh, my aunt will think that something's wrong with me if I don't eat, 3 servings of whatever she's brought. Yeah, no, there's a lot of that goes in, and having boundaries, right, for yourself.
Yes. And even in relationship, because when I first got with my husband, he's on a totally different eating schedule than me. So I tried to, okay, well, we're going to eat together and all that. Well, I did that for about a week and I gained 5 pounds. So I had to make the decision, I will not eat with you. We can eat at different times and talk to each other, but I can't eat the same things that you eat, and I can't eat in the same way that you eat. So having that discussion with him, even though of course we would love to have this beautiful time together, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for me. I am not being healthy eating the way that you do. It works for you. It does not work for me. So I need to make the necessary changes, not to make you feel bad. I just need to make the necessary changes for me to be able to maintain the weight and the health that I want to maintain.
Yeah, putting yourself first above the relationship, right? Because the relationship doesn't really suffer, right, by you not eating together, especially when you're clear of like, this is how I need to eat. This is how I need to take care of myself. And, we can do this and we can do that. And, this will work out and this other thing won't. That is still, a wonderful way to have a relationship. It's a lot more open than many, as opposed to being like, well, I don't know, he eats a certain way. I can't not do that, right? I have to kind of fit in and make it work. And it's like, no, this is what I need. I need to be healthy in this way. And that allows me to be healthy in the relationship.
Yes. And with physical activity, I had to do the same thing. I know at one point, I even changed my entire work schedule to get off early. So I went from 4:10s to 5:08s so that I could leave work a little earlier than I did before to be able to go to these workout classes. Because when I was working 10-hour days, by the time I was done with those days, there was nothing left. And I love Zumba. I love working out. But even I was like, nope, I can't. I am exhausted.
No gas in the tank here.
Myself. So I changed my schedule just so that I could be able to go to those workout classes because it fills me up. But I actually have to have energy to be able to go into the class.
Yeah. And let's shift a little bit and kind of talk about that, because you now work as a coach and you help other high achievers, with kind of these same issues. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about, kind of what are the parallels when it comes to, taking care of ourselves? Because again, I think it's kind of an issue where it's easy for us to believe, well, I'll just get myself out of burnout, quote unquote, whatever that means for people. Often, it's like, well, I just need to leave this job and then I'll be fine, right? Which of course is not true, but, we think we'll get out of burnout and then we'll be okay. But I imagine that when you're working with people as a coach, right, you see some of that same mindset and you're having to, really kind of educate and counsel people around, no, you're going to have to keep doing things. You're going to have to keep doing things that worked to help you, for the long run.
Absolutely. So let me talk a little bit about what I do in coaching. So my company is called Brew Wellness Collective. So my last name, Brew Wellness Collective. And my coaching is a little bit non-traditional. Let's talk about this hypnosomatic coaching that I do.
Yeah.
So I really work with people's subconscious beliefs and really get them to bring more awareness to their body. So the subconscious beliefs that lead to burnout: everyone is more important than me, being fully identified as a person who works at this job versus a person who has these different talents, I have to make sure I sacrifice myself for all these people in order to succeed. I must work extremely hard to succeed. So I really help people to identify what are some of your core beliefs that actually are leading to burnout. Yes, of course, there are systemic things that are just not right. But
Yeah.
then we also have these internal beliefs that are driving us more than we should be. And that's leading us to having our own burnout within the system that wants us to be burned out, that wants us to work, 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 work,
Right.
work.
A system
So
that is built, it is built off the backs of people, not specifically to burn them out, but not with consideration of what it's doing to the people who are
exactly.
functioning within the system. 100% with you.
Exactly. So I help them to identify those beliefs and then begin to shift those beliefs. And then also bring awareness to what's going on in the body. During my entire burnout, it wasn't just my thoughts, what was going on. I was having body issues. I literally, when I would be driving to work, have chest pain. Like, what's going on here? I can run miles, but I'm driving to work and I'm having chest pain. I had so much digestive issues. I had to get a massage. I literally had to get a massage every 2 weeks, or else my body would ache. I would get headaches. I would have insomnia. So, starting to notice some of those symptoms early is really important so that you're not in the system for years and years and years. You end up having a heart attack, like, oh, I wonder how that happened. Well, you've been having chest pain for 20 years.
You know that
we just
your
ignored.
cortisol level is always like, like you're swimming in it, you're drowning in it. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yes.
We're not immune to the function of the human body. Turns
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. And the way what way I help my clients maintain is by one, of course, we're doing the hypnosis to really find the deep belief, but then every day having some kind of self-care, self-check-in strategy, whether that is through meditation, through journaling, through yoga, through some kind of physical activity, really cultivating that time that's just for them to check in with what's going on the inside. Because we can do change work together all day, but I'm not with you all day. You're with you all day. So having those practices, so when you notice things are coming up, even with me, all the work that I've done, I know that there's a little people-pleasing part of me there. So having times when I'm noticing, why am I doing this thing? You know what? Let me journal about it. Let me get quiet and get in meditation and try to see it from a different perspective to see what's going on here. I really help people to try to create whatever practice that is for you, because it's different for every person, and just give them those tools of checking in to see what is going on with me now.
Yeah. So important. It just makes me really think about the conditioned, disconnection that we have with our bodies in particular, right? We have it with our emotions as well, even though, a lot of people would be like, what do you mean I'm disconnected from my feelings? I feel angry all day. I feel frustrated all day. It's like, well, there's still some disconnect there. We need to talk about that more, right? But that body piece of it, right? And, not only the parts that you mentioned of, I might have migraines, I might have, chest pain, I might, always feel shaky or have palpitations or, any other kind of, physical symptoms that we kind of suffer through, and we may be very disconnected from that idea that, it might be stress that's making this worse, right? But also, intentionally sort of tuning our bodies out, right? And not spending time sort of sitting quietly with ourselves. That's a big one, I think, for many of the women that I serve, physicians, is not being able to sort of sit quietly with themselves because they're just so afraid of all the thoughts and all the feelings that sort of come bubbling out. And they're like, nope, 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 nope. I can't do that, right? Because it feels so overwhelming. And not really recognizing that, yeah, it's because it's years of tuning it out, maybe numbing it with food or alcohol or, overworking or social media. Like, this takes a lot of undoing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
So right after I left my full-time position, so this is actually kind of funny. My intuition told me that I should do a yoga teacher training. It's like, yeah,
You're
totally.
so
This
good at
person,
signing up for trainings. Just like, yeah, I'll go do this. I'll do this. I'll do this.
like, sounds about right. I've done about 6 yoga classes in my life. Let's do a yoga teacher training. Okay, so I did it. Walked in, like, I'm shocked that I had the experience that I did. But anyway, it was amazing. But at one point during the training, well, it was 5 weeks long, literally hours and hours of doing
Is
yoga,
it the
literally
whole
sitting.
200 hours of training? Isn't that in
Yes,
5 weeks?
in 5 weeks. So I had to go there. I was in St. Augustine. I'm in Florida in Jacksonville. So I was living in St. Augustine for those 5 weeks, doing yoga, sitting, meditation every day, learning these new different things. And one thing about the yoga space, like, it's not many Black people who are like, I'm mildly overweight now and not flexible. That I'm not the general like yoga teacher body type. So I was surrounded by people who definitely did not look like me or have the body type of me. Anyway, so I was in there doing the training. And at one point, I literally don't even remember what we were talking about. And something made me so, I felt the anger come up. And then suddenly I had a flood of sadness and I cried.
Mm.
It wasn't until, and this was weeks into the training, probably like the 4th week of just doing this and like sitting with myself, I cried. And it wasn't for just like 5 minutes. It was in the middle of class for like 20 minutes of crying. They ended up doing like a sound healing around. It became a whole thing. But honestly, when you were talking about that stuff building up, for me, when I sit back and reflect on what that was, I honestly felt like I was grieving my whole career because at that point, I still didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I was grieving what I thought it was supposed to look like. I had a
Oh,
plan. I was going to be in that same clinic until my 10-year mark
I'll
and my mom's
retire.
it's gone because I knew I couldn't go back. I
Mm.
knew for me and my own physical health, I could not go back to that old surrounding, but I wasn't sure where I was going. And I needed that space to be able to let that go, to just sit in uncertainty, sit in the sadness of it. And after I let that go, it was like the clouds opened up. And now, of course, my life is totally different. I could see possibility, but that space had to be created for me to fully breathe the experience that I thought I wanted.
Wow. I'm gonna have to sit with that for a little bit, but I'm so glad that you shared that story because again, with sort of being disconnected with many of our emotions, I think so many of us in that space, right? We would be thinking, well, I left that job. I'm going to go do something else. I don't know exactly, what it's going to be, but thinking that we have to be sort of 100%, sort of positive and, kind of in the mindset of like, what's next? What's next? What am I doing next? But here you are, like you gave yourself the space to, really learn to sit right and be in that quietness and, let whatever comes and out what comes, right, is grief, which is not the same thing as regretting your choice. It's simply one of many emotions you were probably feeling, right? Being in that in-between space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't regret it. Me leaving was the best decision I ever made because
Right.
life on
And
this
yeah,
side
some
is great.
people would identify, they'd be like, oh, if I feel sad about having left, then that must mean it was a mistake. No, it doesn't have to mean it was a mistake.
Mhm.
It just means that you're a human, right? And you've got multiple emotions going on, right?
Mhm.
Mm. I'm laughing a little bit because I'm just imagining myself sitting there, crying an ugly mess as I've done way more times than I'd like to admit. I remember going through a period where I was like ugly crying on the way to work every day. That was my chest pain. Yeah, and just being red-eyed, but we kind of microphone. We kind of get into that space of like, I gotta pull it together, right? I can't
Yeah.
I can't ugly cry right now. When maybe that was just exactly what needed to happen, right? To let it go.
Absolutely. I think everyone needs an ugly cry that doesn't get stopped. That was the difference
Right.
in that yoga experience, was that they just allowed me. They
Right.
did
They didn't rush
not
over
try
with
to stop
tissues and be
me.
like, yeah,
No, they
yeah.
eventually there was some on the side because it was just a lot coming out of my face. But they just allowed me all the time and space that I needed to process what was happening. And a
Mhm.
lot of times in general with people, oh, they start crying, oh, let's hug her, let's do this, just stop, stop, stop.
Oh, yeah,
No.
it's okay, you're fine. Yeah, that's what we tell
Mhm.
kids, right? You're fine. Stop crying. It's all right. Like, no, sometimes we need to cry.
Yeah, sometimes
Mm.
you need to cry.
I wonder too how many times. I bet they've seen that a lot of times, which is why they're like, yeah, we're just gonna let her cry. Not in a mean
Yeah.
way, but we're just gonna hold the space and just be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I honor them for that. And because I mean, they had only known me for a few weeks, and I definitely honor them for that. And that's why when I have clients and they have feelings and things come up, I just allow it to flow. I have longer time with my clients. It's
Yeah.
usually like 90-minute sessions that we have together because I know that things are going to come up. Things are
Things
going
are
to come
gonna
to the
come up.
surface, and I want to have time and space for them. So whatever comes up, let's sit with it. I'm not trying to change it. You don't have to change it. Let it all come up. It'll go away. It's
Yeah.
fine. It'll come and go as it needs to. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of the unrecognized, components of trauma, right? Because I'm sure, as I am, sort of I'm not a trauma expert, right? But I think, in the primary care exam room, right, we have seen the many ways that trauma bubbles up. And when we can learn to recognize that, yeah, people need a safe space to just allow their bodies to feel and sort of let things out. We don't have to cover that up. We don't have to hurry it along. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to sit there and watch somebody cry,
Mhm.
but we can do that because that's really what they need, right? Is
Yes.
another human to witness them and be with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can be in whatever kind of space they need to be in, and that's okay. I'm
That's
going to be right here.
yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the hypnosomatic component of the coaching. You talked on it just a little bit, but if we were doing a session, what would that look like for people?
Oh, yes. I love it. Okay. So let's talk about the tools I use, and I can talk about the session.
Okay.
So I really use a lot of tools to help connect and understand what's going on with people's subconscious beliefs. So those beliefs that are under the surface, that's running the show. And of course, we can do hypnotherapy. There are techniques called time techniques where we find a belief that someone has, and then we literally go back to see where did it come from? Is it something that you got at a young age? Is it something that your mom had, your grandma had, whatever? So we use techniques to find out where it came from and then learn from that. And then other ones, neuro linguistic programming, so NLP. So a lot of that I can do through just talking, like asking different types of questions based on what the person is saying. So those are the tools that I use. Oh, also, of course, breath work, yoga, stretching. We're moving a lot. Like, as you can tell, I'm a kinesthetic person, so I can't really sit in a chair. I got ADHD, so in life, I'm
little
moving a
wiggle
lot.
seat going on.
So when certain things happen, I'm like, okay, let's move your body. Let's breathe. Let's do these things to recenter yourself. So there's a lot of movement in it. So what would a session look like? So first, the session would be, we try to identify what those beliefs are that's going on. So whether I'm using a questionnaire or a survey, or at the very beginning, I like to give everyone a clean slate. So for the first like 2 or 3 sessions, we're using different techniques to clear out where is a lot of the anger coming from, or guilt, or hurt, or sadness, so that when we actually are doing the belief change, you're not carrying on 50 years of anger or sadness that hasn't been talked about and all that. So we start there. And then once we've done that, a lot of times we'll do a meditation at the end, or after we've done several sessions together, then we'll do a meditation just to really lock in all the different things that we've learned and been exposed to over the past few sessions. So everyone's is a little bit different. It's just based on what that person is coming in for and what they want to shift and change. I just know that by the time people, it's hard for me to say, oh, this is what I do. This will be the end result, because the end is different for everyone. And it's not just going to affect, oh, my business and how I show up in my career. It's going to affect how you show up in your whole life, because you carry you everywhere you go.
Yep. So true. And yeah, but I have so many clients who come to me and they're like, yeah, I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to, I just need to get, out of this employed situation, and I'll go do this. And like, yes. But first, we need to undo some of these thoughts and beliefs that you're carrying with you, because otherwise you're just taking them with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. So I love that part of it, of you're really tapping into people's deep, kind of thoughts and beliefs in that really powerful way. And you, as the coach, you have no idea exactly what that's going to look like for someone, because it's about them. It's not about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone is so different, and I love it. It's probably why I chose family medicine. I chose because every room is different that I go in. Like, you have no idea what you're walking into. And so then, of course, I chose a coaching route where I don't know what's going to come up when they think about something that happened to them when they were like 2 years old. I don't know. But we're going to sit and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to learn from it. And I'm going to support you through the whole thing.
We were talking about, what you ate for dinner last night, and all of a sudden you're bawling. Okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's
pretty much how it goes.
That's, I think, and the parallels with family medicine, definitely true. I mean, we could spin stories for hours, right? Of like, well, what it said on the schedule was X. And when I walked in, oh my God. Oh, goodness. So tell us a little bit about sort of the way that you started to incorporate these, these very important non-medical, non-traditional things that you are doing, and, kind of what you're wanting, kind of moving forward for yourself to incorporate all of these different elements. Because I think that's fascinating. And so many of us, are interested in bringing extra things to people, right? Like, I have friends who've done yoga training and acupuncture and, coaching, and, we all have this desire to bring this into medicine, which is quite challenging to do in most of our medical systems. But I'm curious what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so I was introduced to hypnosis actually in grad school. Mm-hmm. I took an intro to hypnosis class, because why not? Because that's who I am.
Sounds cool.
Of course, I'm a biology major, but let's take an intro to hypnosis class. So I think that planted the seed for me. And then when I went through burnout last year, my first coach was literally a hypnotherapist, because I said, there are some beliefs in there that's got to shift, and I don't know how to do it. And I found one, and then that shifted everything for me. So how I want to incorporate it, and the change that I want to do, is I want to help doctors, other people in healthcare, understand themselves better, so that they can advocate for themselves, for their patients, and then for the system. I am one person. I cannot make all the change for everything, but if I can help this doctor, and I can help that doctor make a change here, that doctor make a change there, and actually stay in medicine in the way that works best for them, that's the change that's needed. And that they actually enjoy it. They're not going in it with chest pain. They know how to advocate for themselves and set boundaries, and notice very quickly in their body, oh, no, I don't like this. I need to have a conversation with someone, not, oh, I don't like this, I hate myself, or this is what I've done wrong, and this is why I'm a terrible person. No.
This is just what I have to deal with for the rest of my life. End of story.
No, you have the power and agency to change, and you can change whatever you want, but you have to start with yourself. Start with yourself, understand your needs, your wants, your desires. And then once you know that, then you can articulate that to someone else.
Yeah. Oh, so much goodness there. I feel like we're cut from the same cloth. So yes, all those points. For someone who's listening to us and, they're experiencing burnout, they're really struggling, with work, they're in some of those limiting beliefs and that learned helplessness of thinking like, I can't I can't do this because I can't get permission. I can't take time off. I can't do this. I can't do that. And really finding power in your story. What would you advise them? What would you want them to hear right now that you wish you could have heard at that same time in your life?
I want them to know that they have so many choices and power that they don't even understand. They're in a system, likely, that is benefiting from you staying small, from you thinking the worst of yourself. So, really, one, creating some space, whether that's taking a few PTO days or getting someone to watch the kids and you go to a hotel, whatever. Take some space so that you can get all of that crazy chatter that everyone's saying around you out of your space, that is just you left there. And then reaching out to help or for help from someone, whether that's a coach, whether that's a counselor, whether that's your home girlfriend who's a doctor, and sometimes whether it's somebody who's not even in medicine at all. Reach out to have somebody that you just can talk to. Tell them you don't need them to fix things now. You just want someone to hear your story. You want them to hear what's going on with you and just to hold space and create that space for you. So if I was back in my burnout space, literally that's what I did. I took like a week of PTO to just decompress a little bit, to get my life
Even
together.
though it was probably inconvenient for other humans for you to do that, but it was
sure was
necessary, right?
necessary. Okay. So I just took some time that was just for me. Then I said, I know I don't want to do this alone. How can I get help? So I reached out to actually a colleague, and then eventually I got my own coach. And that is what really helped me to start making the changes I need to make to get where I am now.
Yeah. No, I think exactly what you said is so important of you need to clear out some space for yourself. You need to sit in that discomfort, right, of listening to what your voices, are telling you and what those thoughts are and why you're feeling so stuck. Because if we don't recognize, that we're feeling really trapped and stuck and that it's in part us keeping the lid on ourselves, right? Like we've been trained to fit into this box. We were told, once we got into our attendinghood, okay, then you'll just lower the lid on your own box and you'll stay in your lane and, you'll be happy with however much time we tell you get with your patients and however many patients we tell you are going to be on the schedule. And, oh, by the way, there's this and there's this, and you have to clean the rooms now because we're not hiring staff, and all the things. And we're just like, okay, I'll just put my little lid on my box, right? And then we just leave it there. And then we wonder why we feel trapped and alone, stuck.
Yes.
And we got to realize, no, it turns out I put the lid on here. I could take the lid off, and I can figure out, what do I need? What do I want? What is going to make it work for me? And if I ultimately can't make it work here, I'll do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do something that works for me. But I got to start by unpacking these beliefs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who is listening and they love hearing you speak and they love your story, where can people find you and learn more about the work that you do and, kind of get more Dr. Tanielle?
Yes. Well, you can go to my website. I'm in the process of updating it now, but it's www.brewwellnesscollective.com. So BREW wellnesscollective.com.
Okay.
I'm on all the Yes, I'm on all the socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Instagram is my favorite place to land, but it's Brew Wellness Collective, BREW Wellness Collective.
Awesome. Okay. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes. So please go and follow Dr. Tanielle Brew Smith, Brew Wellness Collective. You've heard her say. And I just can't wait to see what continues to happen for you. I know you had a very, very successful conference that you ran. It wasn't a conference, it was a workshop retreat. Yeah. And it just sounded amazing. And of course, hearing you talk, I was like, oh man, I wanted to go. Oh, but I think, it's been so wonderful, getting to hear more of your story and, really the amazing work that you are doing in taking such good care of yourself, figuring out what you needed exactly, and creating a life out of that, right, based on what you need, and having to learn how to do that without apology, right? Letting go of the people pleasing, learning to set boundaries, all of it. So powerful. So thank you for sharing your story and sharing your work with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. All right, my friends. So that is what we have for you today. Please go check her out on social media. And as always, thank you for listening. And until next time, have a great day.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.